In 2007, a secret program was quietly stood up inside the Defense Intelligence Agency. It went by two names depending on who you asked: the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications Program, or its public-facing label, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. Most people know it by the acronym AATIP. Senator Harry Reid pushed it through with bipartisan support from Senators Daniel Inouye and Ted Stevens. The initial classified budget, $22 million. The stated purpose was to investigate unidentified aerial phenomena as potential threats to national security. That much has been reported. What has not been reported nearly as thoroughly is what the investigation actually required them to study. The contract was awarded to Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies. Nevada billionaire Robert Bigelow. Bigelow's team then commissioned research from scientists, physicists, and engineers across the country. In January 2018, the DIA sent a letter to the Senate Armed Services Committee listing all 38 products produced under the AATIP contract. That letter was obtained through a FOIA request, and the list is extraordinary: traversable wormholes, stargates, and negative energy. That's a real paper, authored by Dr. Eric Davis of Earth Tech International. Advanced space propulsion based on vacuum space-time metric engineering, authored by Dr. Hal Puthoff, a physicist who spent decades at the Stanford Research Institute. Warp drive, dark energy, and the manipulation of extra dimensions, high-frequency gravitational wave communications, invisibility cloaking, theory and experiments, antigravity for aerospace applications. These are not fringe documents. They are unclassified government-commissioned research papers produced for the Defense Intelligence Agency of the United States by credentialed scientists at accredited institutions. So here's the question that should stop you. Why would a national security program tasked with identifying aerospace threats need papers on traversable wormholes and warp drives? There are two possible answers. Either the program was investigating whether adversaries, China, Russia, had made breakthroughs in exotic physics that the US needed to understand and match, or the program was investigating something they had already observed firsthand that required the level of physics just to begin explaining it. Neither answer is comfortable, and the government has never clearly said which one it was. Hal Puthoff's paper, now publicly available, makes the case that engineering space-time itself, manipulating the quantum vacuum to generate thrust, is grounded in modern physical theory, not science fiction, not speculation. He cites Nobel Prize winner T.D. Lee, who wrote that altering the properties of the vacuum may produce entirely new phenomena, totally unexpected. Puthoff's argument is that we have not proven this is impossible. We have simply not yet found the mechanism. Dr. Eric Davis's paper on traversable wormholes goes further. It treats negative energy, a concept that sounds like something from a film, as a legitimate object of study within general relativity. The mathematics of wormholes, first described by Einstein and Rosen in 1935, are valid solutions to the equations of general relativity. Davis's paper examines whether they can be stabilized, traversed, and potentially engineered. The Pentagon paid for that analysis, and 33 of the 38 commissioned titles remain classified to this day. Think about that for a moment. We know the names of the 38 papers. We could read 5 of them. The other 33 are still locked behind classification. We don't know what conclusions they reached. We don't know what they recommend. We don't know if any of the research led anywhere. Luis Elizondo, the intelligence officer who ran AATIP from 2010 and later resigned in protest over the Pentagon's handling of the UAP issue, has described the program as unambiguously successful, in his own words after leaving. There is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone. He said the findings were raised to senior levels of the Department of Defense. He said the program produced results that were, in his word, undeniable. He has never walked any of that back. What's significant about Elizondo is not just what he said, it's what he did. He spent 2 decades running military intelligence operations in some of the most classified environments on Earth: Afghanistan, the Middle East, Guantanamo Bay. This was not someone prone to making dramatic public statements without calculation. He did so by sending a letter directly to the Secretary of Defense, arguing that the phenomena being studied represented a genuine national security issue that wasn't getting the attention it deserved. The Pentagon's response was to say AATIP was just an aerospace threat assessment program. Elizondo's response was to go public. Now here's where 2025 and 2026 become important. The physics didn't stop when AATIP lost its funding in 2012. Academic researchers have continued publishing on warp drives, wormholes, and negative energy, and the results are genuinely unsettled. In 2025, a peer-reviewed paper described a warp drive spacetime with predominantly positive energy density, which would be a meaningful step toward theoretical viability. The 2026 preprint introduced new analysis tools for testing warp drive geometries and found small but real violations of standard energy conditions. The math is evolving. The goalposts are moving. And meanwhile, the Pentagon has not stopped looking. In August 2025, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, the government body that replaced AATIP, held an invitation-only research workshop in Washington, D.C. 40 participants, government officials, academic scientists, independent researchers from physical, social, medical, and computational sciences. The stated goal was to build a rigorous, cross-disciplinary scientific framework for UAP analysis. AARO has since stated it intends to hold more workshops. They called UAP research a pressing area of inquiry. That is government language for, we still don't have answers. AARO has also published its criteria for classifying a UAP case as formally unresolved. The bar is precise: instantaneous acceleration with no visible propulsion system, 0 thermal signature, the ability to transition seamlessly between air, water, and space, active jamming of sensors, objects that behave in ways that no known human technology can produce, and that happen to map almost exactly onto the flight characteristics that the AATIP physics papers were trying to find theoretical frameworks for. The program that was supposed to explain the phenomenon ended up producing a physics reading list for a civilization that doesn't exist yet, at least not one we know about. And that is the part of the story that never gets asked out loud, not in press briefings, not in congressional hearings, not in mainstream coverage. The question isn't whether the government studied wormholes. We have the documents. The question is what they were looking at that made wormhole research feel like the appropriate response. 33 papers, still classified, commissioned by the Defense Intelligence Agency, written by physicists with security clearances about technologies that all current understanding should not be possible. What did they see that sent them down that road?